So, I have a bit of a soft spot for Luigi. Maybe it's something to do with being the taller, less athletic member of a set of siblings, but I've often identified with the other Mario brother. He just has more personality than Mario. He has flaws, he has ambitions he can't always realise, he's constantly living in someone else's shadow. In short, he's human. And as such, he's usually my choice in Mario Kart and other Nintendo multiplayer games. And in my opinion, playing through Galaxy a second time as him was way more fun. But it hasn't always been this way. When the GameCube launched and we got no Mario game, but instead this weird little tech demo starring Luigi wielding a vacuum cleaner, a lot of people were a bit disappointed, myself included. But in hindsight we shouldn't have been, and not just because Mario Sunshine turned out to be not as good as we were hoping. Even to this day, Luigi's Mansion is a quirky delight that just oozes Nintendo's trademark charm and attention to detail, and gave us the chance to get to know one of the Mushroom Kingdom's most endearing characters. The game is set in the eponymous mansion after Luigi finds out he won it in a contest, despite not remembering having entered. When he arrives, he finds that the place is infested by ghosts, and worse, that Mario got there first and has disappeared. With the help of Professor E. Gadd and his handy Poltergust 3000, Luigi needs to clear out the ghosts, turn the lights back on, and figure out what's happened to Mario. The bulk of the game involves going from room to room in the mansion, solving puzzles and catching all the ghosts until the lights come back on, indicating that the room is now safe. This usually makes a chest appear containing a key to one of the many locked doors, and thus allowing you to venture deeper into the mansion. More than just a funny riff on Ghostbusters, the vacuum cleaner mechanic is really enjoyable and unlike anything else I've ever done in the game. The player must first use Luigi's flashlight to stun the ghost so that they show their heart, and then play a sort of fishing game where they must pull away from the ghost using the analog stick until it gets sucked inside the poltergust. The unique ghosts that have escaped from the mansion's portraits provide a bit more of a challenge. You'll need to figure out the best way of upsetting them enough to make them appear based on their personality. But if you get stuck, you can always scan them for clues using Luigi's Game Boy Horror. As you progress through the mansion, you'll unlock the ability to suck up different elements into the poltergust in order to access more areas and solve new puzzles. More than just fighting ghosts, Luigi's Mansion is a game about exploration. It's not always immediately obvious where you need to go next, and each new room has loads of objects that can be interacted with, often rewarding you with money which goes towards your final score. Therein lies the hidden challenge of Luigi's Mansion. Not only finishing the game, but trying to maximize your treasure to end up with a bigger mansion at the end. Weirdly enough, something that reminds me of Wario Land on the Game Boy. Unlike Wario Land, however, you can't go back after you finish the game to get the stuff you missed. So if you don't want to play through the game a second time, you need to be very thorough and check in every nook and cranny of the house to find every last bit of treasure, as well as be quick enough to trap the super rare golden mice which randomly appear. Going for a higher rank gives the player something to do after they've gone through the game, but to be honest it's not quite enough for me to go through the entire thing a second time, even unlocking the more difficult hidden mansion where everything is flipped around. The problem is that whilst the game is a lot of fun, there's just too much backtracking for me to want to do it all over again. The game is already pretty short, it can be finished in about 5 hours, and significant amounts of that time will be walking from one end of the mansion to the other because you found a key to a basement room whilst you were up in the attic. Another annoyance are the boos, one of whom is hiding in every room and needs to be found. They don't need to be stunned in order to be vulnerable, but they can escape through the walls into another room and frequently require you to chase them back and forth through the same door. My advice is to just be wary that unless you are extremely patient, you're probably not going to see the best ending to the game. As a launch title, Luigi's Mansion did a fantastic job of showing off the power of the GameCube. Luigi's flashlight and the lightning through the windows cast some very cool shadow effects, and the way curtains and tablecloths react to being sucked up by the vacuum was very impressive for the time. The real star of the show, though, is the sound design. I wouldn't go as far as to say that the game is scary, but the music does a great job of setting the right mood, especially in the way it changes from room to room. Sometimes with the classic combination of strings and theremin, others just with Luigi's nervous humming. That humming is part of what makes the game so easy to love despite its flaws. Luigi is the star of the show. Unlike any Mario game where the protagonist unthinkingly runs and jumps past danger to save the day, here our hero is completely and obviously terrified. And yet he keeps going. Look at how tentatively he unlocks each new door, or the way his confident whistle evaporates the moment he leaves a well-lit area. The player can press a button which makes Luigi call out Mario's name, and you can really hear how scared he is.
Mario! 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 Mario!
Charles Martinet does some of the best work of his career, as his voice conveys Luigi's different levels of fear, almost pleading for Mario to answer as his health gets close to zero. To paraphrase Ned Stark, when you're afraid is the only time you can truly be brave. And in his journey through the mansion, Luigi demonstrates that he can be relied upon when it comes to the people he cares about the most. With the recent year of Luigi, it's nice to know that one of my favourite Nintendo characters is getting the recognition he deserves, and hopefully it will inspire people to go back and check out this little gem. Spookily charming and endlessly endearing, you won't regret opening the doors of Luigi's Mansion.